Hi everybody, my name is Jerry Wise, and this program is entitled Healing from Your Narcissist System. And I've been a life and relationship coach for over 40 years. I've been helping people in many ways over these many years. Now I do life and relationship coaching. I use a family systems approach to helping people learn to self-differentiate. I also work with ACOAs, adult children of alcoholics, adult children of narcissists, and many family problems and many individual problems that I have worked with over the many years. And again, this program is entitled Healing from Your Narcissist System. What I want to do in this program is to broaden your scope and to zoom out regarding narcissistic relationships. In using a family systems approach, I think it's very important that we take from family systems the ability and the theory to zoom out to see our relationships in context. And what that really means is our relationships, as we zoom out and include our family of origin at present, our family of origin in the past, and our current functioning in the present. And as we zoom out to see all of that, the narcissistic relationships that we have been in make a lot more sense. It also gives us the guidance and paths to exit a relationship with a narcissist and to heal and recover from narcissism and its abuse. There are many good books out there about healing from narcissistic relationships, offering some of the steps you can take to recover. They focus on your pain and you and your patterns with the narcissist. But they actually keep a rather zoomed in approach rather than a zoomed out approach. They're helpful, they can be useful, and I think they are ones that can be help us to recover. I have used those in my own recovery from narcissistic relationships, and they really do give us some what is normal, what should you expect, those type of dynamics, which is very important for us. Today, I'd like to take a family systems approach and a zoomed out approach to narcissistic relationships. I want to use this family systems model to help those of us who have suffered painfully and who are in narcissistic relationships. Maybe you're in a narcissistic relationship right now, or maybe you've been able to get away from a toxic relationship and you're in the process of healing and recovery. The key point, one of the key points I want to make today is that a narcissistic relationship fits into a larger picture of our emotional landscape, or what we might say in family systems world, our emotional field. This awareness can help us out of a narcissistic relationship and can help us to recover. I and my associates train clients every day to look at a larger picture of their emotional life. It gives them more insight, more awareness. It shows them better the lay of the land and the map they're using to navigate problems and to head towards a healthier future. But if that map is incomplete, if their GPS is broken, if they don't see a broader perspective, then we will end up hitting our shin on the table. We will end up falling into potholes. We will end up tripping over things that we don't see. And that's why I think the more we see, the more we can recover and the faster. I urge those that I have worked with to take I've urged them to take in their life their family of origin life growing up, and current functioning in their family of origin at present. Take in all of that information as you're making decisions and as you're healing and as you're recovering. The benefits provide more objectivity, less self-blame, less naivety, or we might also say observational blindness. It provides more awareness and greater understanding for ourselves. Anything that does that, I'm for. And I think for example, a Bowen Family Systems approach is one that can provide much more help in that area, as it has for me. Seeing our lives from a bird's eye view, a bird's eye perspective, can really give us greater knowledge of ourselves and others, and give us paths towards a greater maturity, healing, and strength. One of the questions that I ask, and this is always a direction I always like to go, how does being in a narcissistic relationship fit into your family system at work within you presently? Now let me repeat that. How does being in a narcissistic relationship, or having been in a narcissistic relationship, fit into your family system at work within you? And I want to break that down just a little bit. In fact, let me use an example of Jeannie, who's a 50-year-old nurse, and she was raised by a narcissistic mother. She's married to a husband who's also a narcissist, or at least has many narcissistic traits. She continued to try to heal her relationship with her mother with hope and holding on to the fantasy of having the mother she always wanted. She continued to try to be good enough to change mom, to have mom get some insight, to perfect mom, to help mom heal, so that she could have what she always wanted and needed. Similarly, we stay fused to our narcissistic relationship as adults and to those toxic relationships to try to get that fantasy fulfilled. So it begins in childhood. Into adulthood, we continue to try to make that fantasy be fulfilled and to get the love, acceptance, caring that we've always wanted. And so we will fuse on to a narcissist who will reenact, and we will reenact what I had in my family of origin. And actually what I may be doing now as adult with my family of origin still. So it's not only the past functioning, it's the present functioning, and then how it fuses me to a narcissistic relationship. And I think thinking of it in those terms, I think there's much more chance of freeing yourself from that. Because if we can free ourselves from our original fantasy, pain, dreams, trauma, and abuse, then we are much less likely to fuse and to continue that pattern with an adult relationship who reenacts what I had many years ago and what I may currently be having now. Jeannie would take mistreatment, put downs, rejection from her mother just to win her over. And again, she would just accept all of that, hoping she would then get out of her role as the scapegoat or all of the role that she's been playing in her family. Her siblings were also caught up in this narcissistic family cycle, and they would reject and become intolerant of Jeannie, believing the role Jeannie has played in her early in her life as the one who is oversensitive, over-complaining, difficult, and as one who just can't get over things. Of course, in her marriage, she would hear the same things from her husband, who is a narcissist. Well, you're just oversensitive. You just complain too much. You're just difficult. And you're just one who just can't get over things. Besides other kinds of mistreatment that we can get from narcissists. But there is that similar theme playing out again in our adult relationships. Now, her husband, again, would state those kinds of things that she had from growing up and in her present adult relationship and how her family operates within her as an adult. And he would say those type of things and accuse her of all the things that would just mirror what had happened to her when she was younger and as an adult. While her husband himself was unaware of how his behavior and his lack of feelings affected her and lack of empathy. He would become defensive and lack that empathy when she would suggest they work on their marriage. Well, of course, there's no reason to work on the marriage because you're the one with the problem, not me. Much like in her family of origin growing up and her adult relationship family of origin pattern, in which the family was still doing the same ostracizing of her and painting her in such a negative light. And so now Jeannie is caught in the double vice of the family of origin dynamics and marital relational dynamics of narcissism. She's caught growing up, caught as an adult with her family currently, and now caught in her relationship with a narcissist. And of course, she was miserable. She could not see her way clear, could not see her way out, and could not change enough to make people change or to be happy with her. She continually blamed herself for not being healthy enough, emotionally stronger, kind enough, Christian enough, tough enough, and all those other enoughs that are there. And as Jeannie began her work with me, she began to see more clearly her role growing up as a child and how clear that became and how much pain there was there that she could begin to heal and let go of and process through. So first she began to, let's start with the first vice in which we're caught in a vice. Let's start with the first vice, our family of origin growing up. And then we looked at how is it repeated in her adult life? How is she dealing with her family of origin now? And actually we saw a lot of the same dynamics were happening now as they were when she was 10 and now she's 50. But the family still operates in the same way. And it would operate in her the same way. And then we take a look at how is it operating in her marriage now. And then we would see all of the dynamics in all three vices that we were caught in. And so if we can begin to loosen that vice through healing and recovery, dealing with our pain, dealing with our beliefs, dealing with all of those, that inward work, then we begin to find that loosens up, adult relationship with family of origin loosens up, family of origin of childhood loosens up, and then we loosen up the relationship with the narcissist because we're not caught in this vice and this where we can't get out. We are caught in this situation that we cannot free ourselves. She also began to see more and more how her family of origin was still at work in her. That the family was still in there. Even though she doesn't live in the family, she has her own family, her own kids, grandkids. But the family of origin was still very alive in her. She would go to work. And if there was anything that would trigger her, like when she grew up, she would also have these triggering and reactivity. And so her family was still at work in her. Her family of origin was still creating systems feelings of shame, guilt, rejection, and abandonment. I would recommend you watch my video on systems feelings versus true feelings, because those systems feelings were imprinted long ago, and now they are there to keep us in the same role, to have us functioning in the same way in the family, because those feelings those feelings are the fences that go up that keep us in our box. Because if we feel shame and guilt, rejection, and fear abandonment, then we will behave the way we're supposed to think and behave within the family and keep our role going. Her family of origin was still creating systems thoughts as well. I'd like to do a video on systems thinking, systems thoughts, and our real thoughts. Her family of origin was still creating systems thoughts that she was bad, unworthy, never good enough, and defective. And she believed the way others saw her as being true. But that's beliefs that have been imprinted and are to stay in there, so you stay in your box and in your role. And the system needs you for the equilibrium and the homeostasis and the stability of the family. We need you to stay in that box. Don't you dare come out of it. So you feel what the system creates, you think what the system creates. That's very important. These unresolved feelings and thought patterns set her up for finding her husband who fits the family system within her to a T. She married him and thus continued in pain, frustration, self-doubt, fear of abandonment, and would pendulum her life back and forth between compliance and caregiving and giving in to anger and resentment, irritation, frustration, and then we just go back and pendulum back and forth. Rather than landing in the 90-degree mark, rather than 0 to 180, because 180 degrees from sick is still sick. 90 degrees from sick is not sick. It's balanced. And so what she's been working on is, of course, her self-differentiation so she can live at a 90-degree mark and not pendulum back and forth, which only keeps the systems going and keeps the system going. If we're doing the pendulum life, that will just maintain an unhealthy, dysfunctional system. She lived a life of triggering from those unresolved wounds as a child, thoughts that she was taught, and the current wounds inflicted by how her family of origin operates within her even presently. And it was quite amazing to hear her talk about her family of origin and how they operate now, today, is almost identical with the way it was operating when she was a child. In her recovery and healing, she began to go inward and face her fears, her beliefs, her painful childhood growing up with an alcoholic father and a narcissistic mother. Her recovery took her to going inward, so she can begin to become more aware, begin to look at feelings, which the family, of course, that's antithesis to the family. The family doesn't want to be aware and doesn't want to go inward and look at feelings. That's another thing we learn in a dysfunctional family. Oftentimes, we go outward to end a relationship with a narcissist, and then we go inward to heal. In other words, going outward is that stopping the behaviors and the things we're doing, our actions. Going inward is looking at how our feelings and our emotional system works and the pain and feelings that we need to identify and to heal. Too often, victims of narcissistic abuse go inward to manage their relationship with a narcissist and go outward and look outward regarding themselves. And what I mean by that, if I can explain, we go inward with the unhealthy relationship. Same with family of origin. We go inward to control our triggering to survive with the narcissist's onslaught of mistreatment. And we work very hard to use our empathetic skills to understand and help change the narcissist or the narcissistic family. And so we'll do all this internal work about them and about what they're doing and about perfecting them, etc. Then we go outward when dealing with ourselves. So we're doing just the opposite of what we should be doing, but I'll come back to that. We go outward when dealing with ourselves. And so when it comes to my anxiety, my pain, my trauma, my feelings of rejection, I'm not going to go inward about those because those are too painful. So I will go outward and caretake, comply, be less of a problem, be less of a burden, behave in a way to try to get love. And this soothes our anxiety and the painful triggers which upset us. But it only soothes us for a time. It's only a quick fix. We outwardly overeat, become religiously addicted, overwork, overfunction, and try harder to make others love us. But we have it reversed. Go outward with the narcissist and stop the behavior that you are doing. Go inward to heal. I suggest using a combination of inner child work, inner adult work, self-differentiation and family systems work for those who are intent on recovering from addictive narcissistic relationships. The focus on a wider system and the inner work, I believe, is the best combination for healing. So I like to zoom out so that we have a better map to operate on, and then go inward to heal and recover ourselves. There are some good authors out there. Ones that just come to mind are Marjalis Fjellstad, F-J-E-L-S-T-A-D, Margaret Paul, Jenny Brown, Roberta Gilbert, Andrea Schara, S-C-H-A-R-A, John Bradshaw, about inner child work, homecoming and inner child work. And so if you have a combination of a family systems approach and healing the inner you, I think that's the most helpful way to heal. I hope you will follow me on YouTube and hit the subscribe button so you can be one of my subscribers. And if there's a new video I put up, it gets sent to you. I hope you'll join my podcasts that are on Spotify and all the major streaming apps. I have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and I put new posts up there, new quotes to encourage you. We're even thinking about doing some meditation podcasts that I think might be really healing for folks. I also would recommend you join at least the bronze plan on my website and join a group monthly call. That's the silver plan. The bronze plan gives you all of the exclusive content. The silver plan gives you all the exclusive content plus a monthly call with me, and I meet with just the silver plan folks where I answer questions from them. I want to thank you very much for listening today. Have a great day and be wise.